Remember, before we get started, whatever it says to you, do not listen to it.
Alright, so let's talk about the film The Deliverance, which is a new film that is coming to us directed by Lee Daniels. This is a film based on a true story according to the film. So it is actually based on LaToya Emmons' family's possession. So I'll talk about that in a bit. So we will be breaking down that real life possession because there's a ton of articles and there apparently was a mockumentary or documentary made about it as well. So I'm very curious to look into that. So the film stars Andra, you have Glenn Close, you have Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor, Monique, Caleb McLaughlin, amongst many others. This film actually was one of the bigger bid wars of the year, according to many, and Netflix apparently acquired it for over $65 million, which is a pretty hefty price right there, right? So I'm very excited to see what this movie is going to be and how it will deliver. Now, I already watched the trailer, and I will tell you, I think the trailer looks great. There definitely is some great cinematography going on, and I really do like this southern vibe it has as well going for it, and I think that definitely is going to be interesting to see how this film will do. So this actually was something that happened in Gary, Indiana, so more of a South Central vibe for sure. So this film apparently took place in 2011, which I'm reading right here, when the haunting and demonic possession occurred. So let's look at the trailer, and I got some of the screenshots here as well, so we can just break it down, and then we'll talk a little bit about the case, and I'll probably make a whole separate video about the case because there's a ton to go through, and apparently there was that documentary as well I want to talk about also. So from the initial reaction to this whole thing, I really do think that this film looks like it wants to not just be your typical Exorcist film. I think it really wants to add more layers to it, and it kind of gave me vibes of David Gordon Green's The Exorcist, and I really do like that. I really like the vibes that David Gordon Green had there, where it was focusing a lot on the family and on community and on church and things like that, which I think is always interesting to have in these projects, because a lot of times it's really hard to differentiate an Exorcist film from the other Exorcist film, because at its core we're always going to have the possession, we're always going to have the exorcism, we're always going to have the skeptics and things like that, right? But when I think a film like this is giving us more layers to it, I'm very excited to see how that's going to be. And if there was a huge bidding war for it, it gets me more excited as well. Now, I really did like how this film just started off right off the bat with the exorcism already happening and showcasing also this family that is in need. It looks like Glenn Close might actually be playing like a neighbor of sorts also, as you can see throughout the trailer. And you know, it's going to be interesting. There are not many shots of the demon or anything like that, which I think is good to keep that at bay, because I think one of the things when it comes to Exorcist films and their trailers is they always showcase it right at the beginning or in the middle or the end, and then by the time you go watch the film, it doesn't really come off much of a shock value of sorts, which I know isn't the biggest thing you want in a horror film, but it still is a layer that adds to it. So I feel if the more that they're able to keep it at bay and not really showcase that, it could be a great thing for the film to really just get you once you start watching it. So this is going to be in theaters for a limited run, however, since it is a Netflix film, you might be able to catch it in theaters for about 2 weeks or so. So overall, like I said, that trailer I think did it enough for me to be excited to see what this movie is going to be, and the whole aspect of this being a film about a family trying to really like get a sense of what's going on here. Because let's look up a synopsis for the film, which I was very interested when I first read about it. I really was more interested too when I found out it was a real case that just recently happened. You know what, The Exorcist and all of that, that was something that happened like in the 40s, I believe. But this one says it happened like a couple of years ago, almost not even a decade almost, but yeah, a decade actually, just about a decade, right? So it says a family living in a home in Indiana discovers strange demonic occurrences that convince them in the community that the house is a portal to hell. So it sounds like we're not just dealing with we're not just dealing with one demon, we could be dealing with a couple of them here. So I'm reading a bit about the Ammons case here, and it just talks about how when they first moved into that house, that they claimed there were black flies that swarmed the porch in December and kept returning. Apparently they also would hear footsteps footsteps in the basement and doors creaking, a shadowy figure of a man in the living room, and a boot print, of course, was found after all of this also. And then the children started to have weird occurrences, and apparently one of them levitated at one point. And this is when police started to get involved as well with it. So it definitely is a case that really got a lot of things going, because apparently child services was also involved in all of this. So the story goes on to say that there was an exorcism that was performed by a father, and they had him interviewed and all of that, which I do want to talk about when we talk about the case, but I want to get everything together and look more into it. Zach Baggins also apparently purchased the home, and he is the one behind Ghost Adventures, the host. He purchased it for apparently $35,000, and then it got demolished in January 2016. And that was after they filmed a documentary that was released on March 16, 2018, which was called Demon House. And I'm very curious to check that out as well, so I'll look into more of that also. But this is the film The Deliverance, which is by Lee Daniels, who has done some films that you might have heard of, because they have actually won some pretty prestigious awards for those, which includes, actually did the film The Butler, that won some pretty good awards as well, and the film Precious also. So I'm very curious to see what Lee Daniels will do with this story. Like I said, it's a story that I don't remember hearing much about, but apparently it was a big story around the time that it started circulating. So I'm definitely going to go back and look into it, and we could do a whole video talking about it and the case and all of that. But let me know, did you ever hear about this story when it first circulated? Apparently the article, when it first became very popular and viral, was in 2014. And then, of course, the whole Ghost Adventures thing and all that got involved. And then they had the documentary in 2018. The documentary is called Demon House, apparently. So let me know if you've heard any of that, and if you're excited for this movie, which will be coming out on Netflix August 30th, before it has a little bit of a theatrical run as well. So let me know what you think, and if you're excited for it, follow us for all the things you love. 35,000 subscribers is our big goal for July. Less than 3,000 to go. Super excited to get to that. Stay tuned for our Twisters review tonight, and as always, stay safe and stay positive, y'all.
You shall be